when you guys are ready.
Oh, yeah. I was smiling.
Hi, y'all. My name is Randy. I am from the San Francisco Bay Area. My pronouns are she, her, and hers. I don't have any merienda, but I do have water, so I guess we'll count that. And I just wanted to be on here this Sunday just to, build community and meet other people and talk about mental health because, as Filipinos, sometimes it gets lost in translation or it's hard to talk about. So I'm very thankful that I was able to join in with y'all today and talk about this very important topic of mental health. So thanks for inviting me.
Hey guys, I'm Zach and I'm from Queens, New York. And my merienda today is just a little matcha latte. Since I already had dinner, it's dinner time here in New York. And I wanted to be part of this conversation since I feel like, just like Randy said, in my, health, mental health within our community can get lost in translation. So, it's good to hear other people's takes on it. So, yeah.
Hi, everyone. I'm Jaslyn. My pronouns are she, her, hers. I am currently living in Los Angeles, natively Tongva territory. I didn't have lunch yet, so I brought hella food if you want. Yeah, just kind of all the tira, like donuts. I just had random cravings, so excuse me as I kumain. Let's see. And Ate Chachi and I have been talking for a long time just through text, and when she invited me to this conversation, I was very much fangirling. I'm like, what? I'm a huge fan of this page. So to contribute is a really big honor, and I think I'm realizing it right now. I'm very active in the community regarding like cultural awareness and such, but in terms of mental health, it's just been a lot of internal conversations or small circle conversations. So I'm really excited to have more Kwento with you all.
Cool. Hi, everybody. Nice to meet you all. I'm Cole. I'm 22, and my pronouns are he and his. And I have nothing to eat, although I'm starving. And I'm here because Chachi's been a huge supporter of my work. So when she invited me to be on this, I was like, oh, man, I got to support her. No questions asked. And yeah, I don't talk about mental health that often, so I'm mainly here just to like also build community and just hear from all of you guys. I'm excited to listen.
Awesome, thank you all. And one question, I guess, I didn't want to overwhelm you with a lot of questions at once, but could you also talk about what do you do for a living, and also like what your passions are?
Well, I guess we could start backwards then, and I'll go first. I was late because I was recording score to a film I'm working on right now. I'm a director-writer based in LA. Just graduated from USC. Graduation was online, so I don't know if that counts. But yeah, I just shot a short film about growing up Filipino in the Chicago suburbs. And despite COVID, we managed to safely fly out a whole cast and crew from LA. It's about leaving behind a giant family because I think a huge part of Filipino culture is being super close with all your cousins. And moving to LA was definitely by far like the hardest decision of my life. So it was about time I made a film about it.
I actually just finished teaching with the American Center of Philippine Arts, which is a youth-based Filipino organization where we teach young Philams like about awareness or cultural identity, and especially arts. Like arts is our main tool, which connects to me personally because I am a dancer. I love just using dance to express myself, which connects a lot to storytelling. So that's been kind of my main vehicle and inspiration to help me connect with people. And let's see, Randy, I don't know if you are aware, but the Bay Area's ability to have a big Philippine dance culture was kind of really my foundation for everything. So yeah, dancer by night, nonprofit person by day, but hopefully one day everything can come full circle. And yeah.
So I am a graphic designer. My current projects right now are the jeepney sign stickers, which I'm working on, where if you guys aren't familiar, back in the Philippines, we have these jeepney signs, these hand-painted jeepney signs, which have the destinations on them. And right now I'm putting large Filipinx populations in the US as the destinations. So we can bring a little piece of home wherever we are in the States or at this, all over the world.
Yeah, and as for me, I recently graduated as well, but back in 2019, so not too far. But I graduated from UCI with a public health degree as well as a music performance degree. And then after I graduated, I decided to have more of a career towards public health. So right now I work for UCSF doing admin work. And but I also have other passions on the side. Because I graduated with a music degree, I am a singer, so I still sing. Um, Definitely involved in the arts, just like Jaslyn too. But I also have a passion for health and fitness and helping people on their health and fitness journey.
Awesome. Thank you all for sharing. I guess we can kind of jump right into things. I guess one thing that's really important is setting the foundation for what mental health is and where each person's interest or journey started. And so I guess the first question that I have for you all is, how did your mental health journey begin and why is it important to you now?
I'll start off with that. So I think my mental health journey started, I want to say late last year. It was like a rough couple years, and I wanted 2020 to be sort of this like new beginning, this new path for me, and I really wanted to be more connected with myself because I felt like I've been sort of just internalizing everything, not sharing things with people, my friends, and that sort of just takes a toll on you when you just internalize everything, keep everything to yourself. So I made a promise for myself that for 2020, I'll be more open with my health, share my experiences with others. I know, I'm not the only one going through this. So I want to, try sharing my experiences for anyone that might help in my health and whatnot. So for sure, like late last year, it all really started.
Yeah, I think for me, I like hearing that question, I immediately thought of my parents' divorce, and how through that process, I was about 7 or 8, I can't even remember, but that age, and thinking of my first therapy session. But as a kid, I was just like, why am I talking to this person? I don't know this stranger. And seeing, especially within my middle school or high school years, I'm like, okay, I totally understand how my parents' divorce influenced my mental health, and how like my whole portion of growing up was always, I didn't think it's such a Filipino thing, like family first, think of your family, like, but what about you? And letting, I didn't think about it really until college. And like I mentioned, I went to USF, and their cultural centers was so supportive about like, how are you doing? But more so, how are you really doing? So letting that question just be honest with myself. And, I'm not afraid now when people ask me, how are you doing? If I'm like, I'm a mess, letting myself be comfortable with that and normalizing it's okay not to be okay. So just letting conversations be honest, not only with those around me, but checking in with myself like, hey, Jazz, you need a mental health break? Because that's okay. So, yeah.
I guess I could chat with real quick. I guess mine kind of just started this year in quarantine, because I went to my very first therapy session ever just a couple months ago. And I've only had 3. And I think, kind of relating back to what Zach said, I think I always just internalize a lot of my feelings. And if not, they come out on film. All of my classmates and peers know me as wearing my heart on my sleeve through my films. I make a lot of breakup films. And this most recent film about my family is essentially the biggest breakup film I've ever worked on, because it was breaking off from my whole family. And like Jaslyn talked about too a bit, it's always family first in Filipino community. So the whole film is basically about my own struggle. They really wanted me to stay. They're all still in Illinois. None of them really have the ability to leave, and how am I supposed to leave that behind, So yeah, I started therapy in quarantine, not for any reason in particular, but just because I have no excuses now. There's so much time. There's so much sitting around, and there's so many virtual therapy places out there too. So it's super easy for me to just get started. And it has been really nice just to kind of talk through my feelings for the first time, I feel like, in my life, with someone who's not biased or will judge you for any reason at all. It's very freeing. Yeah, I was part of this virtual therapy place where if you miss 3, you get kicked out. And I sadly missed 3 while I was filming this. So I need to find a new place. But while I had it, it was great. It was great while it lasted.
Yeah, so for me, I think I really started taking mental health more seriously when I graduated college and, moved back home this past fall. So I would say in late 2019, because I felt like I overthink a lot, and, I can get a little anxious, especially when you're going through a transition where you're not sure what you're going to be doing next. Because I had this feeling, I was like, okay, I planned my life all the way up to like when I graduated, and then I was like, okay, now what? And I was like, okay, like now that I moved back home, maybe this is a time for me to really focus on myself. So I really started focusing on my physical health, but also really my mental health. And that really helped me like really build even more self-confidence in myself, and just like feeding my mind with more positive things, and just building more of a belief in myself. And I really think that, when you start with the mindset, um, everything else will feel better, because like you can't really control the things outside, but the things that you can really control are the things that you do to yourself, your mind, your body. So that's why I really decided to take control of that once I moved back home last year. So it's been a journey, but we're progressing.
Awesome. Thank you all for sharing those wonderful testimonies. I definitely see a lot of common threads between you all of um, having these like life experiences and also wrestling with environments and people that may or may not, you know, be able to um, help you grow and promote your mental health, but being able to do and balance that inner like a drive, and also being able to find spaces and environments for you to thrive sound like things that have helped you with your mental health journey, whether that be through the work that you do, or through the passions that you hold, and that's really great. And that kind of segues on to, I guess, the next question. What I was hearing a lot with you all talk is the concept of family. And so I guess like the question I want to ask too is, how do you understand your Filipino culture, if your Filipinx culture, um, and your identity? Because I think in order to talk about mental health, we also first need to address like our own identity as Filipino.
I think at this point in my life, recently moving back home from the Bay Area, I was in the Bay for about 6 years, moved when I was 18, now I'm 24. And I think immediately my mind goes to anak, apo, ate, thinking of those very Panay-esque roles, and having to understand like the beauty in being all of these things and also the complexity. I think at the same time, my mental health, like that negative voice in my head keeps going to, you've been reduced to a caretaker, all you do is the womanly things in the house, and having to remind myself that like, okay, yes, but I'm choosing to do this because I'm also setting my healthy boundaries. I'm saying no when I need it. Like, even though being Panay means usually you're going to be a caretaker, for me, it's like saying yes, and like saying yes, I will help take care of you. At the same time, I'm recognizing my health needs to come first too, right? So I think for me, letting it come from a place of love and realizing like I'm always going to be daughter, granddaughter, great granddaughter, and at the same time I'm reclaiming it in a way that it's hopefully a healthy practice in my own household. So yeah, that's where I'm at.
I feel like that's kind of a tough question for me, because I spent most of my life growing up in the Chicago suburbs. I'm from a city called Naperville, Illinois, which made a list of the 10 snobbiest cities, top 10 most snobbiest cities a couple of years ago, if that explains much. And I feel like, yeah, I was surrounded by a lot of white families. Like a lot of my best friends were white too. So like I really didn't have a huge sense of Filipino identity until I really moved out here for school. I went to USC. Now I'm out here in LA. And then like I think a lot of my Filipino identity really is defined by my family, because like a lot of the really the only times I did feel like Filipino was when I was surrounded by all my extended family, all my cousins, aunts and uncles. And like, I mean, even at home, we never had that much Filipino food unless we were at a big family gathering. And then like I mentioned this earlier too, I'm a filmmaker, and like one of my favorite films to come out recently was Lady Bird. I watched it 7 times in theaters. That's how much I loved it. And like I loved it so much because like, oh my god, like I wish I made this film. I should have made this one. But then like The Farewell came out like 2 years later, and I love that film as well. And I just listened to a bunch of podcasts with the director Lulu Wang, and she just really stressed the importance as an Asian American filmmaker to tell your own stories and get our own like experiences out there, no matter like how cultured or uncultured they are. It's important to like be ourselves and tell our own personal stories. And like all of her podcasts and stuff, and like just listening to her interviews really helped me realize like the most important thing I can do as a filmmaker is tell my own stories and not anyone else's. So I'm also really sorry I have to hop out a little soon because I'm speaking at an alumni panel in like 5 minutes.
Let's go.
Well, yeah, let's go, Cole. Excited for you, but thank you for being with us today, and I hope that we can continue to have this conversation with you too.
Yes, and I hope that I can come back and speak longer too. This is great to meet all of you really quickly. I can't wait to watch the whole episode and get to know you guys better. And yeah, I'll find a way to find all you guys after this too.
For sure. And then Chachi will definitely reach out to you about future ones too. So thank you.
So I actually was born in the Philippines. I moved out to New York when I was around 7. So that was 15, 16 years ago. So I still have very vivid memories of the Philippines, all the food, all the culture. And I try to bring as much of that as here, because I find comfort in things that are so familiar to me that I'm so used to, whether it be the food, the TV shows, and all of that. And I'm so lucky to be living like literally like my neighbors are my cousins, my titas. So you can't escape family. So I'm always surrounded by all my relatives, all my family, and they make sure that you never lose a sight of home. That wherever you are in the world, that you always take a piece of home with you. And we speak Tagalog here in the house all the time as much as we can. So the language is always fresh in our minds. We'll always carry it with us wherever we are. And yeah, so definitely being born in the Philippines and bringing all that has truly helped me adapt and create my own life here in the US while still remembering everything that I learned in the Philippines.
Yeah, so for me, a lot of my Filipino identity definitely came from my family, especially growing up. I have to like think about the question because it's a deep question. But yeah, so like I kind of grew up in the suburbs in the Bay Area over in the East Bay, and there's not as much Filipinos on the East Bay. If you go kind of more towards, the peninsula near San Francisco, there's way more on that side. But I grew up like by high school and everything. There's very few Filipinos, but the few that there are, they're all like close because they had that kind of like that connection. So I was always really close to them in my schools. But like I really got my Filipino culture from my big Filipino family, and I had a big Filipino family, and I would always take pride in my Filipino culture because of my big Filipino family. And when I went to college, I dove even deeper into my Filipino culture because I was involved with Filipino clubs and just continued to learn more about my culture. And then even last summer in July 2019, I visited the Philippines for the first time. And that was like the first time I ever visited like, the motherland. And it was amazing to really see like where my family came from and how far like my family has come from like living in the Philippines to coming over here. And that was very humbling to me. But I feel like, as you get older and you figure out more things about your Filipino culture, you really like dive deeper into it and find how it really speaks to you. So like as I got older, like I really tried to find my own way with my Filipino culture. So
thank you all. Again, common threads of like family as kind of the root of Filipino identity, and understanding how within the family we learn how to be ourselves. And so I guess another question to follow up on that is like, what values did you grow up with, and how has it like shaped your understanding of mental health and self-care? I know, Jaslyn, you as an example, you kind of like alluded to this earlier about like gender roles, and how it's a yes and kind of like a I guess where I want to go with this is kind of like elaborating more on these values that are rooted in like how we see the world today and how it affects you personally and how it also affects your ability to take care of yourself.
I would be very happy to share that. I think getting to know a little bit more about my family too. When my parents separated, and I would visit my dad's side, who's in Vegas, and my mom's side, who's here in LA. And this is, again, just very much observations. I don't know if my family will ever see this, but I feel very safe with you both. I noticed that my mother's side is very patriarchal, and my father's side is very matriarchal. So thinking more about like, okay, I feel this both duality within myself now, being just very close to both sides. And so definitely like the value of respect for your elders is a huge one. I always feel that my grandparents are like my second parents. So seeing just how they are and learning the value of patience, living in an intergenerational household. That's something like my mom would always tell me, or just like across, excuse the truck, like just be patient, be patient with your Lolo. And I'm like, damn it, I'm trying. Like I'm trying so hard. And so that idea of like family always being first is a huge value. And we always tell each other, of course, love being another value. Like we can disagree as many times as we need to, but we're still going to love each other. And I think that's just formed how I am, just seeing the amount of conflict within the process of my parents divorcing. And I always had a tendency to not choose sides. So I think for me, mental health wise, I had to remind myself, like, you just have to be patient with both sides and let that lead. And I think now that I'm older, I'm more aware of like the quote Filipino terms like bahala na, nakakahiya, like all of these things. I didn't notice growing up because it's just every day. But going to college and you go to your Filipino groups and like, did you ever notice that your family talks about utang na loob? And I'm like, what? Like having a definition to the phrase or the term, I'm like, oh, so I moved home because I'm feeling that deep sense of utang na loob and like these different values, which I feel people are always like, it's so negative, like it's a negative term. I'm always like, well, yes, and like it's so complex in a way, but that's the beauty of like our Filipino families is, as much as dramatic as we are with how we love each other, it's all going to come from that deep sense of love. And it's very much so like, did you eat as a form of love? So me trying to practice more like, I love you kind of thing. Like, you could tell me you love me too. Like, that's okay. Because that just all supports each other in our household. So sorry, that went a little everywhere. But
that's awesome. But thank you for sharing all of that. Yeah.
I think to add on to what Jaslyn says, at least for my family, at least we don't say like I love you. As I would say, we share love so differently. Whether it's like giving food, like, hey, are you hungry? Like, did you eat? Kumain ka na ba? All that. And I think that's one thing we're learning as a family is to express your love. Like don't be so scared, don't be so nervous to just say I love you. Like sometimes it can be cringy or whatever, but it's good to hear that from someone so close to you, like your family, your dad, your mom, whatever. And as someone who what you call it, I'm part of the queer community, so how it's in the Filipino, like oh crap, he's gay, whatever. So I was always scared of coming out, all of that. But then once I was able to break that barrier and finally tell my mom, like, hey mom, like I'm gay, I was so scared that, oh my, she's gonna disown me, she's gonna send me back to the Philippines, whatever. But she was so, just the amount of love that came from her, like I never heard those kind of words come from her, and it was so just, it was validating for me. It was the perfect thing to hear from her. I needed it at the time. I'm like, wow, like if my mom access me, then that's it. I'm good. Everyone can just talk smack about me, but as long as I have my mom's love, um, I'm fine. I'm good to go. And that's one thing that I'm slowly learning, is just say I love you. Just say I love you to your friends, your family, and yeah.
Thank you for sharing that part of your identity with us. Thank you for being open and vulnerable.
I think one value that I think I see definitely now is like, work really hard. Because, a lot of us, like our families, sacrifice a lot to like move over here and like to really create a different life than they had in the Philippines. And I think, at least in my family, like we always have this, I guess, mentality of like, work really hard so that you can have a good life. And I'm very thankful for that because, you have to kind of have, it's good to have that in your head to like, work really hard to get what you want, to create the life that you want. So I think that's a value that I see in my family, just to like work really hard to get an education, to get a job, good job. But yeah, I think one thing that like sometimes can get lost in translation of like working hard is like, take care of yourself too. So like, yes, you can grind, you can get all the things done, but also make sure to take care of yourself, because sometimes you have to like step back from work and unplug and just like rest so that you can go back so when you go back to work, you can be even more refreshed and you can go even harder. But I'm very thankful for that value, that Filipino value of, work hard, get an education, like create a life that you love, and really like go for that. And that's a value that I really love. And I'm very thankful that, my family has taught me that, and all my siblings and all my cousins that as well.
Yeah, these are all such like profound experiences that like every time you all speak, I'm just like, oh my gosh, yes, this is exactly some things I experience. And like, I guess that's so great to know that despite our different like locations and upbringings, there's this sense of like solidarity and how we all experience life as Filipinos. And with that, it's like a lot of what I was hearing is like balancing that love from family and those values, and also like our own lives as like maybe first, second, third, fourth gen Filipinos, like young adults just trying to navigate life. So I guess the question I wanted to ask was, how do you set those boundaries of taking care of yourself, and also like being part of the collective? Because sometimes that's also part of mental health that's lost in translation a lot, of like you're being selfish, or like you're not thinking about everyone. So how do you navigate all that?
I think for me, it's just being really forgiving with yourself, because right now we're living in such uncertain times. Nothing is normal anymore. Like, what is normal anymore? So definitely letting your inner saboteur just take a seat for a bit and just really forgive yourself. Sometimes when I'm having a creative block, I get really mad at myself. I'm like, why aren't you being creative? Why aren't you creating these things? And then so I get really mad. I get really just like, I just start to hate everything that I make. So I learned to just take a step back. Even if you're having a good day or a bad day, or even just a normal day, to just take a break and enjoy being lazy at this point, because you put so much pressure on yourself to be perfect, to create these things, and it really takes a toll on you. So when you finally get to step back and realize, oh, like, I'm being hard on myself for no reason. You're putting all this unnecessary pressure on yourself. No one else is putting this pressure on you. Your mom, your friends. It's just you. It's all in your head. So definitely, just being kinder to yourself has really helped me get past these creative blocks and these waves of just like hating everything you do, because nothing is normal. It's okay to be lazy. It's okay not to do work. So don't be mad at yourself. Just let the inner saboteur sit for a bit. Let him sit out for now.
I think for me, I always kind of say like, always respect like what your parents have to say, always respect what your elders have to say, because at the end of the day, they're just kind of telling you because they care and they love you. And it's better than just them saying, okay, just, do whatever you want. So I always just take it like, okay, like, yes, like I'll take it, but like, take it with a grain of salt. Because at the end of the day, it's your life. And like, you're going to be the one riding that wave. Like, so like at the end of the day, like always respect what your family, others have to say, but care more about what you think about it and like what your mindset is, because it's your life and that's the only thing that you can really control. And yeah.
Yeah, I think for me, my keyword is grace. Lately, I find myself to, I literally verbally say, give grace to yourself, give grace to others. And I think that's just kind of been like my beacon of light, especially in quarantine when you get cabin fever or you're with the same people every day. For me personally, I'm like, okay, I'm finding myself getting short. I need to give grace to others and then give grace to myself, and letting myself listen before I respond. My ate told me one time, she was like, are you responding to receive a reaction or are you responding to understand? So definitely I think that's been my biggest awakening, not only like living in the same house as my grandparents again, but just having, being in this big shift to quarantine is like, I need grace. I need to let that be and just sit with it, and that's okay.
Yes. Like, again, like self-forgiveness, like grace to self and others, and also respect, and caring also about your own individuality and your own life. These are all such great things that sometimes can be really tough to do. And so like you all naming those three things just really affirm like mental health practices and like little things that people can do to take care of themselves, because kind of segueing more into the mental health side of things, like sometimes mental health can feel so like, whoa, what the hell is this? Because it was never taught really to us, and I guess that's on my own like experiences. But yeah, thank you for sharing those practices. I guess like now, I guess something that I would love for everyone to explore is how do we bring mental health into the conversations with our families? Because I think in the beginning of this mukbang, a lot of y'all named it's lost in translation. So I'd love to unpack what that means for each of you, and to kind of explore how we can integrate it in a more culturally sound way. Because I think it's hard because mental health is so Western. This is me on my soapbox. I can go all day, but I guess the question I would want to ask is, how is it lost in translation in your life? And how do you think you can or have implemented and integrated mental health into the family?
For me, just having constant conversations with my mom, because before, like her view on like, let's say like depression, she's like, oh, like you're just sad for now, like it's just a phase, it'll go away. But definitely sharing experiences and letting her know, like, mom, it's not just this or that or what you hear from other people. It's an actual thing. So definitely sparking a conversation with my mom definitely helped. And then just weekly check-ins with her, or with each other at least, because before, like we talk to each other, like the latest chismes, the latest chicas or whatever, but never really more on like personal, like, how's your day been? Like, how's your day actually been? Like, how did you feel today? Are you okay? If you need help, let me know. There was never, I'll say there was never, but it wasn't really frequent to have that sort of check-in on a more regular basis. But now that we've definitely had a more serious conversation about mental health and depression, all that, it's definitely changed both of our perspectives, not just her, but me too. That, it's not just a phase. It's not just, this sort of thing that it'll go away, or you'll be happy soon. So yeah, definitely for me, what work is just sparking conversation it can be uncomfortable for sure. I was so uncomfortable, talking to her regarding that topic. But once you kind of ease them into it, and then they start to respond to it much better. And I think that was really helpful for me, at least.
I love that. Hearing you say it made me also recognize, like, oh my gosh, I check in with my mom more often than I thought I did now. And like really just asking, how are you doing? Just makes it a stronger practice to really be honest with your parents. So I just had to say, like, yeah, that's beautiful. And I think for me, I think for my parents outside looking in, and even though I'm their child, they always think I have this strong exterior. But I'm at the point in my life where if they see me cry, I'm just going to let it happen. So I'm not advocating for people like just cry in front of your parents and you're fine. Like there's conversations that have happened before, and just being honest of like why I have hard days or like dark days, and letting them be there for me. I think for me that's always my toughest challenge. Is like I said, I know I put up this tough exterior because I struggle with receiving love. So practicing it with my parents, like I'm gonna just be vulnerable with you and tell you what's real, because that'll hopefully be received back, because I know our parents too are always trying to remain that tough parent exterior. But I'm finding the more I let myself be vulnerable and express what's going on, I'm seeing my parents practice that too.
Yeah, those are great, y'all. Oh my gosh, y'all are great. I think for me, or I always think like, it always starts with maybe just like little questions, like, trying to pick their brain and like just start a conversation. I think maybe for me personally, my family kind of we kind of like went through a lot this year. There was a lot of things happening like personally in our family, and then it kind of led us to be way more open, way more emotional, because life happened a lot. So like, and like we really started having more conversations about like, mental health and emotions. And I actually had a conversation with my dad like a couple like last week or so, and I was just like, hey, so like, do you ever get anxious or like do you ever like feel like these feelings? And we had like a really good conversation about that, because like that's something that I really kind of struggle with, is like, these anxious feelings. And I was like, hey, so like, do you ever get anxious? And I was surprised, because she was like, yeah, you know what, I do. And I was like, whoa, that's crazy to me, because you see your parents and your family as like, these strong people, and you always forget that like, they kind of went through these same things too, and maybe they just didn't express it. So I always feel like, just opening up the conversation, just asking one simple question can really do a lot.
I love all the things they all said. Like literally, it's so important, and something that's so like difficult to understand is like as we get older, we also remember that wow, our parents are also people. Like Randy, you named it's like so hard, but like also understanding that they're still also learning, and sometimes it's hard when as younger people like looking at our parents and seeing that they have it all together and that they don't have to learn anymore. But that's all, that's not always the case. And it's important to like what you all named of practicing that vulnerability with them and being that model, and also planting those seeds, even though it takes time and like consistency, it'll get you there, and all of your experiences really name that. So thank you for sharing that. And you all kind of like name that in a way that also addresses stigma too, right? That breaking down stigma doesn't have to be this like huge glorified experience of like making going on a huge like a banter and expressing it through rage, but through vulnerability. And I think that's so important, especially in today's culture with like rising like racial injustices and just a lot of chaos happening. So thank you for being vulnerable and naming those things and ways that you have practiced like breaking down stigma and integrating mental health. I do want to open up, since we're getting closer to an hour, I want to open up time for you all to also ask each other questions, even maybe ask each other on things to elaborate more on. This is your space to talk. And when I feel like things are slowing down, we'll close. But I just wanted to offer you all that free space.
I think the whole idea that our parents are also just people, it just makes us relate to them so much more. Because at least I forget that, like, oh my God, my mom she gets anxious too. Like, I'm not the only one always anxious all the time. So when we find that common ground or that shared experience, we help each other through it. And I think that's a big part of how we deal things now. Because before, it was pretty hard to like open up. Because like I'll be scared, like, oh my God, she's gonna judge me. I'm anxious. I've never seen her anxious in her whole life before. And then when I brought her, like, hey mom, like, I'm getting really anxious because of, so and so. And then she'll assure me, like, I get anxious too, it's normal. And I think it was life changing in a weird way that, oh, you get anxious too. Like, I'm not the only one. Like, this is really great for the both of us that we can share these experiences, help each other out. And yeah, it's really eye opening. It's really great to be able to share that with your parent of all people, for sure.
I have a question for y'all. Even you, Jethro, you can jump in on this one too. But I want to ask, like, how do y'all, like, what's your best practices of giving yourself some self-love, self-care, and I guess, controlling your anxieties or whenever your mental health starts going a little south? Like, what's your go-to, I would say, when you start getting in that mood?
Dance is definitely my vehicle. Funny enough, I needed like just a release, and I played music and just danced around in my garage. And you don't have to be a person that practices like me. Like, I just need a wiggle. And maybe, like, for you all, stretching really helps. I think I always feel stress and anxiety in my shoulders. So I'll find myself, if I just need to get up and stretch, that's kind of my thing, like a physical release. So yeah. Or poetry. That's always a go-to. Yeah.
For me, a big thing is rest. Sometimes whenever I get anxious, I overwork myself. Like, I'll like try to distract myself to do other things by doing other things. Like just the other day, like, I was overwhelmed with reading, so I read more. I don't know, like, it's like weird, but for me, like, just giving myself time to just do nothing and be okay with it has really helped me personally. And with that comes a lot of just more breath work, because sometimes it's hard to be in my body. And like Jocelyn, I love that you dance and like just wiggle it out, because like sometimes that's, for me at least, just being a really anxious person, being in my body feels weird. So regrounding myself in that.
If you ever need a wiggle buddy, I'm here for you. All of you.
I'm down for that. Let's do it. Hey.
I think for me, it's not necessarily like an activity, but definitely self-awareness. So when I start to like feel the anxiousness setting in, I try to recognize it as fast or as soon as I could, and then I just sort of talk myself out of it. Like, will this thing that you're stressing about, would it matter in a week? Would it matter in a month, a year? And then when you realize, oh, it's not that big of a deal. You're anxious, you're overthinking, you're anxious, and then you realize it's not gonna matter in the long run. So it kind of eases that the anxiety level. It kind of brings it down. But also, I think someone gave me this analogy. But let's pretend that you see a match. A match represents your anxiety, and then in front of you, you just have a trail of gasoline that leads to an even bigger, like a bomb or something. You have the option to let the anxiety sink in, and you bring the match closer to that trail of gasoline that leads to this bigger explosion. But you also have the option to just hold the match and just let it burn out. Just don't, instead of entertaining that idea, like, oh my God, I suck, or this project is not what I thought it would be. You're kind of you're adding fuel to that fire. So self-awareness and recognizing that you're having this anxiety, and then somehow coaching yourself out of it has been a way for me to cope in a way. I know it's not like the best way to cope, like internalizing, but for me, coaching yourself out of things and nipping it in the bud has definitely helped for me to cope, at least, at the moment, for sure.
Yeah, so for me, oh my God, it's so crazy. So like I've actually been doing a lot of self or guided meditations lately. And I used to think like meditation was like so weird. Like I was like, what the heck? Like I can't focus like that. My mind's going too crazy. Like I can't focus. But I really focused on guided meditations this week. And for some reason my like anxiousness was like, and my mind was going crazy this week. But like when I did guided meditations, I was able to really like control my anxiety, which was really great. And just like what Jaslyn said, like moving, I love like working out now. Like I used to hate working out in college, man. And like now I'm just like, wow, this is great. Like I'm like controlling it. And definitely like, I also love like, personal development and like feeding your mind with like positive things, like through books, podcasts, to really like feed your mind with the positive things so that when you start getting down, you can like lean into these skills and these mindsets that you've been like training yourself. But yes, definitely like also what you said, giving yourself rest, like giving yourself grace, and just realizing that, it's okay. Like you are where you are. You're exactly where you need to be. And just reminding yourself of that.
I think to add on to what Randy said, like definitely like the law of attraction is definitely help. You attract what you think. So definitely like the more you surround yourself with positivity, it brings positive to your life. So definitely, I agree with Randy on that. Just bring positivity into your life. It's really helpful.
Can I ask a question? What are we've been mentioning like different, hold on, what am I trying to say? Okay, I got it. Does anyone recommend like guided meditations or songs, books, like podcasts? Like when you find yourself like, I need a healthy distraction, what's your go-to? Yeah.
So one of my favorite podcasts, I like love this podcast so much. It's called Empower Her with Keisha Fitzgerald. And like, she just like pumps me up. Like she just like gives me positive vibes and just makes me feel like invincible. So like, I love going to her whenever I'm feeling like doubt or like when I feel like giving up on something. Love going to her. What were the other things you listened? You said podcasts and like other things.
Anything really. I guess for me, I need some tools to help me during these times too, because I'm running out. So it was called Empowering Her.
Oh, Empower Her.
Empower Her.
So good.
Thank you.
Oh, and like there's just a bunch of great 10-minute guided meditations on YouTube, and just go on there and like just give yourself 10 minutes whenever you need it.
Yeah, I've been using Simple Habit, which is another meditation app. I use it a lot before I go to sleep, so that's really calming. But yes, YouTube, because unfortunately it's not free, so I'm running out of the free ones. Thanks, Randy.
Yeah.
As someone who's like never tried like meditation, like what do you think will be like a good start? Like what's a good stepping off point for getting into like meditating and just all of that self-awareness and all that?
I'm just kind of starting too. So like, but I feel like a great place to start is just like 10-minute guided meditations. There's one, you just go on like YouTube and just put 10-minute guided meditation, and then all these things will pop up. You'll see things for like anxiety, for positive thinking, for like clearing your mind. I just kind of go with whatever sounds cool and I just try it out. And then it's only 10 minutes. So then you can always find another one too. But those are great. And they're free on YouTube.
Yeah, even like it's called a mindful minute, where you really just sit in a comfortable position and close your eyes and try to spend a minute just to catch your breath. And when I do my mindful minute, this is something I learned, like try to count to 10 without any distractions. And if you find yourself like getting distracted, start back at 1. So that's something I guess like 2 separate exercises I've tried, but it works for me because my mind is always distracted. But yeah, mindful minute or try to count to 10 without distractions.
Jasmine, I've never heard of that, and that's really helpful. That I think would really benefit myself. So thank you for sharing that. I guess something for me too, like I love music. Music is always so centering to me. And one artist that like I recommend is India Ari. I'm not sure if any of y'all heard her, but she has this album called Songversations, and it's basically just like songs she wrote to herself and to others. It's a way of self-love, and the one song I love is I Am Light. Reminding that yourself that you're not your identity, you're not the color of your skin. I mean, like all these things, but inside, intrinsically, you're light, and to manifest light in yourself. So definitely check her out. I love her music. My rotation. So yeah, awesome. So if y'all don't have any more questions, like I'd love to close this out, but of course I want to like be able to respect your times and whatnot. So I guess we can close out by Chachi recommended a grounding meditation to ground us, but I guess we can do that before we close because I guess we had a very fruitful conversation today. And I can guide us all if that's okay. Awesome. So take a moment to plant your feet on the ground. Close your eyes or soften your gaze. Focus on your breath. Try not to change it, but recognize how it is in the present moment. I want you all to take this time to focus simply on your breath and focus on a word or phrase like peace, love, kapwa, and power, a word or phrase to ground you and to return back to when you find yourself distracted. And today, as we strangers come together and found solidarity and reflect back on what we've named our vulnerability and sharing our experiences and ourselves and our light. May we recollect what we are grateful for and what we will take away. And when you're ready, take one last deep breath and enter back into this space.
Thank
you all.
Great.
Yeah.
That was beautiful.
Thank you.
For me, when we were doing the meditation, the word that just kept going into my head was love and support. I don't know, today I felt iffy today, but this really just gave me some fire. So thanks, y'all.
The word that just came into my mind was just forgiveness. Just learn to be easy to yourself, be kinder to yourself, and forgive yourself. You know, you're kind of going through this world, and it's okay. It's hard out there. So just definitely learn to be more forgiving with yourself and just take care of yourself.
Yeah, the word that came for me is connectedness. Just how lucky and grateful I'm really feeling to meet all of you. Like I'm always down to meet new people, but I feel so just grateful to be in the space with all of you and hearing your truth. So I'm feeling very connected.
Thank you all for sharing. And as for me, the word that kept coming to me was vulnerability. Something that's kind of really difficult, especially now in like the context of our world today. But it was like a great reminder of how vulnerability can lead to connectedness and can lead to forgiveness, you know, and can lead to love. So thank you. Know that this conversation about mental health doesn't end, and it's very clear that our time together was very fruitful and can
continue to have these conversations with our family and our fellow Filipinx community. So thank you for being here with us today. Thank you, Chachi, for being tech support and for inviting everyone here. This has been great, and I'm really grateful for being able to share just a part of our lives together. So thank you. Chachi, anything to add?
I have nothing to add. I'm really thankful for everyone for being here, even from different places of like where we are. We still can feel connected. And then I wanted to answer Jetro's question, and the word that kept popping up was determinated.
Okay. So I guess that concludes our time together. Thank you all, and if Chachi has anything, she'll definitely follow up. But yeah, thank you again, and I hope you all have a beautiful week ahead.
And feel free to leave your social media if you guys want to stay connected with each other. And actually, could we take like a screenshot photo, and then I will be using this as our channel art. When you guys are ready.
Oh, yeah.
I was smiling.
Let me add. I'll add myself. 1, 2, 3. Okay. Let me see. Let me see.
Let me write my
Yes. Yes.
everyone.
If you guys have any projects that we want to support you, feel free to like let us know. We would love to support anyone, especially.
I'm doing a kind of little project in the month of September. It's like a little fitness called Self Love. And we're really focusing on, giving our mind, body, and soul some self-love in the month of September. So if y'all are interested in joining in on that, feel free to connect with me on Instagram, and I would love to help y'all give yourself some self-love this month of September. So, and I'd love to connect with y'all further because y'all are great.
On a very similar passion project, I'm hoping to start a workshop series through my community page, which I'll put in the chat, called Panay Pages, where we'll be using poetry and movement as healing. So I hope we can all connect and join in on that together. Let's wiggle together.
So I recently just released my jeepney sign project where I turn Filipino cities into jeepney signs. And I also just released a magazine called Ang Ikalawa, which is a magazine which represents the second generation of Filipinos in New York City. And we had quarantine photo shoots as they talked about their families' experiences, migrating from the Philippines and starting this new life in New York City, and all the experiences and hardships that they went through.
Such great projects. I have nothing but studying, so kudos to you all for having the time to do that. Excited to engage with all of your passion projects. So I guess this concludes our time together. Chachi, any last things?
No more last things.
I'll let y'all get to the rest of your days and night. But take care, everyone.
Bye, guys. Thank you.
Bye. Bye.